All right, Brandon. So you gave me smoke about my Cowboys, all right? So now we're
I
gonna
did.
flip the script on you a little bit, and we're gonna talk about your Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron James. Okay, so now despite the flashy numbers that LeBron has been putting up these past few games, and look, he's been holding down the fort the best of his ability. Happy belated birthday, LeBron, 37
Hey,
years old,
amen.
19 seasons in the NBA. Despite all of that, the Lakers just don't look good. They
No.
just look like a bad team. Now, I actually tweeted at the beginning of the season that I don't think the Lakers are going to finish top 3 in the West. People came at me crazy like they like to do on Twitter for whatever
Yes.
reason. People, like to come at me crazy, but that's cool. I'm from New York. I can deal with the smoke.
You have hot takes.
Listen, it is what it is. But now that we're kind of halfway through the season, what is your takeaway from what you have seen from your beloved Lakers thus far?
I
Don't
was
cry. If you
not.
need a tissue, we'll get that. We'll get that sent to you.
No, I'll try not to cry. Listen, I was not a fan of a lot of those moves that were made in the
Ooh,
offseason. I love Carmelo Anthony.
me
As
too.
much as I love Carmelo Anthony, as much as I want him to win a ring, I am terrified to say anything bad about Russell Westbrook, but we're here to talk, so I'm gonna let you know.
Why are you
That
terrified? You feel like
was
he's gonna come after you, or
I've seen him in person too many times, like randomly. So like I think if I talk shit, I'm definitely going. He's definitely going to pull.
we'll
I'm
start
definitely
off
going.
with something nice. Brody, I absolutely love the way you dress. I don't care what
Oh
anyone else says. I think you are fly as hell. Okay, now go.
yes, King Fashion. Stop giving this motherfucker the ball. No, keep him on the bench. I don't know. I don't know how to say this. LeBron James at the 5 position has been wonderful for the Lakers, but they stink and they're not good. But this is typical with LeBron James teams before the trade deadline. You go all in on LeBron James. You let him figure it out. You let him be the Jackie Moon. Shout out to semi pro player coach. All the stuff
I'm gonna
GM
tell my
on
kids
the
that Klay
court.
Thompson was Jackie Moon. I'm gonna see if when they're old enough, if they know the difference. I'm gonna play semi-pro and be like, "You guys know this is Klay Thompson?
Oh
No
my
way,
gosh,
is it Klay Thompson?"
you talking about the West? I'm terrified for Klay Thompson to come back. But listen, I think the Lakers are right where they should be based on that roster and based on how Anthony Davis can't stay on the court. I mean, it's simple as that. I loved the bubble championship because that was the last time that we could legitimately win one. Tyler Hero played out of his mind in the bubble. It was just a weird, different world that we got a chance to. LeBron got his championship in the bubble. No one's going to have an asterisk on that. But the rest of these seasons,
I wouldn't know. The Knicks weren't invited, so
ooh, ooh,
we didn't get that invite. It got lost in
I
the mail,
felt that
apparently.
pain.
Yeah, it
I
got lost
felt
in the
that
mail, apparently.
pain.
We didn't even get an opportunity, but that's cool.
Oh
Whatever.
man,
That's cool. That's
but
cool.
all I have to say is the Lakers are right where they're supposed to be. They're not the best team in the West. They're not the worst team in the West. They're in a position where they're beating a lot of teams that they're supposed to beat, and they're losing a lot of teams that they're supposed to lose to. I mean, you can be as close as you want to the Grizzlies, but they have a better team
Yeah,
than
absolutely.
and if LeBron James is your only go-to. Listen, we're not going to come back from games with LeBron James shooting 3. I love that he can shoot. I love that he's taking all the things. He's elite in all the different categories, but he can't be the only person on your team because he's LeBron James. He always needed somebody else, and we just don't know who that other person is on this team. We don't know. I don't know what their big 3 that came out 360. That was it. AD number 3, LeBron number 6, Russell Westbrook number 0. Like, no one's going to win with that. We can't even move Russell Westbrook. My thing is, I don't know who comes. Do we get Kyle Kuzma back? I don't know
Come
who.
back. Kyle Kuzma's chilling in DC. He's flourishing. He's hitting buzzer beaters. He's hitting clutch shots.
He's flourishing
he's
in his
having
big
a
sweaters.
moment. Yeah,
Exactly.
he's cool. He's
So
cool.
I just don't. I don't see. I think this is perfect. This is LA drama, right? This follows LeBron. I think that he will be better than a play-in game. I think he's going to. They're going to win the first round of the playoffs, regardless of who they play. I want to see what the roster moves are after the trade deadline. And I honestly do think that Rob Pelinka has something against LeBron James. I just do. I just think he does.
I think it's interesting because Westbrook, I mean, if you look at, this was him Sunday night versus the Timberwolves, it was 108-103 win. But I mean, 20 points, 9 turnovers, shot 0 from 5 from the 3-point range.
Crazy.
Here's the thing with Westbrook, right? I'm a huge Westbrook fan, have always been a huge fan of him. I think people are now saying what they're saying about him, not because his style of play has changed. I think everyone's just now noticing it more. You know what I mean? Because here's the thing, he's always been the same player. It's
Yeah.
just now that it's basically like the story of the scorpion and the frog. This is one of my favorite stories of all time because
Ooh.
it's such a deep story. Long story
Mm-hmm.
short, the frog asks the scorpion asks the frog to take him across the lake. And when he gets to the end of the lake, the scorpion stings the frog and the frog dies. And he says, "Why did you sting me, scorpion?" As the frog's dying, he says, "Because I'm a scorpion and that's what I do." Russell Westbrook has always been the same player. For you to get him on the Lakers and expect him to miraculously flip a light switch and be someone different is the mistake of the Lakers. You knew
Absolutely.
what kind of guy you were getting. You knew
Thank
that
you.
he chucked up a lot of crazy shots. You knew sometimes, he was going to give you a lot of turnovers. He works hella hard. He's one of the hardest workers, I think, in the league. He beats himself up more than anybody can beat himself up. He loves the game of basketball. You've never heard about him being a bad teammate. Even with the situation with KD and Westbrook, when that happened in OKC, I don't remember ever hearing, Russ say anything bad about Kevin Durant. No. There's a lot of good about him, but I think people expected him to be something different when he got to LA. And that's everyone else's mistake because he already showed you what kind of player he was. So for me, I just feel like, LeBron constructed this team. Obviously, he couldn't okay it himself. That had to come from the higher ups, but this is what he wanted. So now you're kind of stuck because you can't move Westbrook. You can't move him. He makes far too much money and no one's going to pick up that contract. Nobody's going to pick him up. You might be able to move some of the smaller pieces on your team. You saw that they move Rondo and things like that.
Right.
You might be able to move some of the smaller pieces in hopes that you can get somebody who can help fill the gap of AD and Russell Westbrook's shortcomings. But at the end of it, what this team is what you're going to deal with for the rest of the season. You're really not going to see a different team. This is just the team that you have. And
I don't want to. We're supposed to end with that point. I can't let you say that. I can't let you say that this is going to be the same team. This is a team that steps into the Family Matters when Urkel turns into Stefan. Like, we are going to see the Lakers.
I say the roster is going to be the same. You're not going to see much changes to the roster. Now, if they go ahead and they're able to figure it out, and by April and May, you see a drastically better team, that's always a possibility. But roster wise, you're not seeing much changes to that after the deadline. It's just, I just don't see it happening. I just don't.
As soon as we didn't sign Alex Caruso, there seemed to be some sabotaging going on. That's all I got to say.
White chocolate is flourishing in Chicago. Leave him alone.
Becky Hammon has reportedly landed a head coaching job with the Las Vegas Aces. After interviewing with various NBA teams, many are calling the move a downgrade from her current position. Ashley, what do you make of her move, and what do you think this says about where the WNBA is headed?
It's a downgrade. Why? Because it's the WNBA. You know what? Okay, here we go. I'm going on a mini rant because I'm tired of hearing this banter. I'm tired of hearing this rhetoric.
Go off, Queen.
The WNBA is not a stepping stone. It is not a downgrade. It is not a path you take to get ultimately to where you actually want to be. The WNBA, especially a head coaching position within the WNBA, is a legitimate job. It is a job that so many people would kill for. It is a legitimate head coaching position. It's not, a consolation prize. It's not, it's just because she couldn't be in the NBA. It's not any of that. She is a head coach, period. I don't care if it's in the WNBA. This is the problem. People still are in this mindset that the WNBA is not a real league, that the WNBA players are not real basketball players. And that just goes to show that they have not been paying attention. If you've watched the WNBA, whether this season, past seasons, or, since the beginning of its construction, you would know that these are legitimate ball players. Some of the ball players within the WNBA can school some of your favorite players in the NBA. They're not out there dunking the ball. They're not there doing all those crazy trick shots. Yes, I'll give you that. But they're playing the fundamentals of basketball. They're playing true logistical basketball, and it's brilliant. And if you want your son or your daughter to understand the true fundamentals of the game, you take them to a WNBA game. Becky let's just run through her resume real quick. She spent 16 seasons in the WNBA. 16 seasons. That is more experience than Steve Nash has as a head coach. That's more experience than Chauncey Billups has as a head coach. I mean, why is it that we give credit to players who have now obtained coaching positions when they really haven't done the work? It's listen, I'm not knocking it, but it, again, keep that same energy. I mean, she also was the first full-time female assistant coach in the NBA with the Spurs. If you ask me, the Spurs 100% dropped the ball with letting her go. That's a different conversation.
Yeah,
but
we're gonna do a pop.
We gotta stop doing this. We gotta stop doing this. You know, it's a stepping stone. It's a downgrade. It's not a downgrade. And just correcting what I said, she spent 16 seasons in the WNBA as a player. So that's not more experience than Steve Nash and Chauncey Billups have had as a player, but she certainly has more experience from a coaching standpoint than both of those guys.
Absolutely. And let's, for the Kurt Herbstreits of the world who are listening to this, back in my day, 25 years ago, the WNBA just finished their 25th season. At the beginning, maybe this was seen as a step down, or maybe was a downgrade for the first woman assistant head coach, coach in the NBA to go to the WNBA and coach her own team. But this is not the world we live in. It's 2022. Right. The WNBA is a popular, reputable, respected sports franchise. It's just as simple as that. You open up your sports betting app if you're in the right city, and you can bet on the WNBA game. We're not talking about Chuck E. Cheese or a rec league game or a church league that people get together. Like, this is the Las Vegas Aces, like one of the best teams in the WNBA.
Right.
The biggest fault here, in my opinion, is the NBA, not even the Spurs, the NBA as a whole, understanding their talent in the coaching realm. And people throw around the term token. And she can be that if she was the only one who was doing it to her, the best of her ability. She's coached NBA games. She coached more, like, to your point, she coached more NBA games than Steve Nash did when he got the job to coach the Brooklyn Nets and AD and halfbacks, Kyrie Irving, and things like that. Obviously not halfbacks.
And she didn't just coach anyone's team. She coached Greg Popovich's San Antonio Spurs. And when you say coaches, there are tiers. And Popovich is the upper echelon of coaches in the NBA. So for him to entrust her with head coaching in his absence, for you or anybody, not you, but for anybody to say, oh, it's a step down or she clearly knows what she's, and the only reason that she is not in the NBA, I feel, is because of the lack of opportunity. I don't think there's any head coach vacancies right now.
Yeah.
But I 110% believe that if anybody can make that transition and break that ceiling, it's her. She's that good of a coach. And anybody who argues that has no idea what they're talking about. No.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I think she is a star in her own right. I mean, it was like she's replacing Bill Laimbeer, who, from my perspective, from my vantage point, when Bill Laimbeer started coaching in the WNBA, I don't know if this is like backwards. That's when I started paying attention on a real level. I was like, oh, what? The NBA, Bill Laimbeer, the Bad Boy Pistons. He's coaching in the WNBA. Okay, let me check these games out. I mean, Candace Parker is one of my favorite basketball players ever. She has brought so much. Becky Hammon is the Candace Parker of the coaching realm, in my opinion, of just like the star in the making. And obviously they have all the pieces in Las Vegas to continue to ascend. But I don't even know, for the people who don't think that this is a step up for her, I don't know how many games she can win for them to really justify. They could win a championship and they'll still say that Becky Hammon took a step down, taking the job as a head coach of the Aces.
It's the same people who, praise and idolize LeBron for making good on his promise to bring a championship back to Cleveland, which, listen, godlike, king-like, more power to him. But you know who also did that? Candace Parker. So what's good for the goose in this situation is good for the gander. So if you're going to keep that same energy and you're going to and idolize and praise LeBron for it, Keep that same energy for Candace Parker. She made good on her promise to bring Chicago a championship. And what did she do? She brought them a championship in the year she said she was going to do it. So it's this double standard that drives me nuts, because it's
Right.
like, as long as it happens in the NBA, there's always an excuse or a justification or it's a celebration. But when the WNBA does the same thing, or there's similar storylines, there's always an excuse as to why it's not the same or why it's not as good. If you don't respect the W, you just say you don't like basketball. Like, it's really that simple. Like, just say you don't like it.
Yeah.
I have more respect for you if you just say, oh, I don't really know much about ball. I don't really like it. That's why I don't respect the W. Like, just...
That's basically what you're saying. You can't like basketball, watch the WNBA, and it's like, this shit's trash.
Right.
Like, that's not,
and
like,
if you don't know what you're talking about. It's really that simple.
Takeline is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the best and easiest way to play fantasy sports. No waivers, trades, or lineup setting. Forget about those season-long leagues that take over your weekdays and weekends, and you're constantly checking it and thinking about managing it. You're busy. You've got things to do. Just set your picks and win some cash. You're hearing us break down these great games on the show. Play along with Underdog Fantasy, the official fantasy app of Takeline. Sign up now with the code Takeline, and you'll double your first deposit up to $100 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit of $10 or more. Deposit $100 and get $100 free.
It is time for Buzzer Beaters, where we talk about stories that we did not cover in the show because of time. And Brandon, I know you got a lot on your chest, so I'm going to let you go first. Go ahead.
The honeymoon period for Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame head football coach is officially over. Notre Dame lost in the Fiesta Bowl in embarrassing fashion to Mike Gundy, who just took his mullet off and was wearing an OAN t-shirt at the beginning of the season. Don't get me started. Okay. We lost again in a major bowl game. This is 0-10 that we Notre Dame. I play football at Notre Dame. Blah blah blah. That we lost. And I think, like I said, the honeymoon period is over. I think it's time to clean house for Marcus Freeman. It's not about keeping the guys around that were good for the morale. It's about building your football team and getting elite athletes on your squad. You know the reason why Brian Kelly left Notre Dame for LSU? Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. It's just those names, those big elite talent that will go to a LSU versus the big elite talent that will go to a Notre Dame. Okay, yeah. Don't get me started with him and his fucking Bengals. Anyways, that was I don't even know if I had a rant. I'm very, very upset. Notre Dame lost again in a major bowl game and in a very embarrassing fashion. I guess this time it hurts even worse because the second black head coach in Notre Dame football history was there for his first game. So, and they didn't make any halftime adjustments, no points and a half. Listen, I go on and on and on. Notre Dame sucks right now, but we will rebuild, and I do think the future is bright behind Marcus Freeman.
What is it? The Fighting Irish? Fight on?
Yeah. That bullshit.
You guys will fight on to live another day. Well, look, I didn't play college football, but I am an avid Knicks fan and die hard. Thanks, Dad, for putting that pressure on me and that bane of my existence on me for my entire life. There's a lot of other teams I could have been a fan of that would have brought me less stress, but here I am. And the Julius Randle scapegoat conversation that has overtaken Knicks Twitter is now a moot point because the Knicks are 0-2 without him. And look, this is not to say, first and foremost, let me double back for a second. Fans who celebrate their players being in protocol, you guys are trash. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Trash.
Garbage.
At the end of the day, these men and women are still humans before they're players. Have some respect. Have some decency. Who raised you? Obviously, they didn't do a good job. So Julius Randle, I'm not going to sit here and say he does not have his shortcomings. I'm not going to sit here. He does not say he does not have things he can improve on. Sometimes his attitude is a little wonky. Sometimes, his ball handling is a little wonky. Sometimes his decision-making is a little wonky. But let's not sit here and pretend, Knicks fans, okay, that he is the sole reason that this team is not playing well. And if the past two games without Julius Randle did not prove that, I don't know what will. So now that you're without your scapegoat, now what? Now whose fault is it? My thing is like, I am not somebody who makes decisions or gives takes in emotion. I'm a logical person.
Okay.
And a lot of the Knicks fan base tends to be overly emotional. And I get it.
Really?
Look, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, New Yorkers, they're emotional. We're emotional. We don't, it's been a long time since we've had a good Knicks team. And we're not trying to go back to the dark ages. It was a dark, dark time.
Bing bong.
Gotta be, that's a curse. We don't, that's a curse.
Bing bong's out now?
It's a curse. It was cool for 4 games and now it's dead. My thing is simply watch the games. Understand the logistics of what you're watching and don't speak in emotion, because then if you don't speak in emotion, you can understand that the laundry list of problems are bigger than Julius Randle. And let's not forget the same guy who, if it weren't for him and Derrick Rose, that playoff experience would never have happened. So I understand players, they vary from season to season. Sometimes you're not always going to get a good season. Sometimes shooting percentages go down. Sometimes, his style changes. You're not going to get that same energy you got last. And I'm not excusing the lack of the things that he's been bringing to the table, but he's not the sole problem. So let's just keep that in there. That's all I'm saying.
I think y'all have some bad juju since Tom Tibbs took Coach of the Year from Monty Williams last year.
No, we got some bad juju when everybody and their mama started bing-bonging us to death without knowing what it meant.
Bing bong.
Half the people bing bong and don't even know what a bing bong is.
Ain't been on a subway.
Yeah. Ain't never been on a subway. Couldn't tell the difference from the B line to the D line to the C line, but they got all of a sudden they bing bonging us to death. I just can't. Lack of creativity from the social teams of opposing teams. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves.